Yeah, yeah.
Pranav, your live, please start.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session on ONDC, OND, and how ONDC is solving the problems of the industry and how to log on. We have on this panel Mr. Shirish Joshi. He is the Chief Business Officer for ONDC. We have Mr. Marichi Mathur, who is heading the F&B vertical for ONDC. We have Anurag Katriyar, who is the founder of Indigo Hospitality, who is our trustee and past president of NREI. And we have Murli Krishnan, who is the CMO and co-founder of Wow Momos. Uh, I know in the last few weeks, everyone's been reading a lot of articles and tweets about how ONDC is changing the way people are doing business. Uh, for everyone, let me first explain ONDC is Open Network for Digital Commerce. And as we go into this session, first Anuragji will speak about why this is so important for the industry. After that, Murli will speak a little about his experiences of ONDC as he's been one of the network partners who is logged on. Marichi will then run through a presentation about uh, how F&B works on ONDC and what it's about. Shirish will take that too, and we will then open it up to Q&A. I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions about this, so give us about 15, 20 minutes to run through the entire presentations, and we will open up to about 30 minutes of questions after that. I hand it over to Anuragji. Anuragji.
Thank you, Pranav, and welcome everyone to this, open house by NRAI. ONDC has been in the news all of a sudden quite a bit over last couple of weeks, and I'm sure everybody had lots of questions. We were getting lots of inquiries at the NRAI, so we thought let's do this town hall wherein we can share our thoughts about ONDC and how one can enroll themselves on ONDC and what are the benefits it accrues. So let me begin by saying, we all are fully aware of the travails we have vis-a-vis our food service aggregators. And, it's a battle which is ongoing. We have been trying hard to make money by working with the aggregators. Now, before I say anything about ONDC, let me clarify that ONDC is not something which is here to compete with Swiggy or Zomato. It's an alternate source for conducting home delivery business for the restaurateurs at a much better price and on much better terms. We have been talking about the problems of not unbundling the services. If you want to be enrolled on a Swiggy or a Zomato, you have to buy the entire bouquet of service ranging from discovery to delivery. There is like it's a one-man shop. In a way, they are almost like digital landlords where they control the entire ecosystem and you can't work without them. And this is where ONDC has come in for us. And it's a huge opportunity because number one, it unbundles the service for everyone. So you can choose to be, selling on ONDC platform and use your own delivery service providers or a third-party delivery service providers to deliver it for you. You can choose to give discounts on your own. It's no more compulsive discount. As you know, with the aggregators, there are 3 Ds which always bother us. The discovery, delivery, and discounts. Now, what ONDC is going to do for us in a very large nutshell is that it's going to put everything in our basket. It unbundles everything. The choice to give a discount is on us. The choice to choose only being enrolled or taking the entire bouquet of services on us. And I think it's like democratizing the entire business of food service aggregation. And it's very important. I say that for n number of reasons, but primarily if you look at the 3 Ds that I spoke about a little while back, they account for almost 40% of your revenue between your delivery commission, the discount ka cost plus some discovery cost by way of marketing expense and all. Now with ONDC that can come down substantially. You can choose to give discounts when you feel like. It's a bad day of the week, it's bad time of the day, it's bad month of a year. You can choose when you want to offer a discount. But this is a great way of taking away the aggregators from the equation I'm not saying they will go away. They will very well remain. We will all be working with them as well. But this is an alternate source which can potentially become big enough to challenge their current duopoly. So with that in mind, I think with this workshop, what we want to do is to tell you what are the benefits of ONDC. We have got Chief Business Officer and the head of F&B business for ONDC here with us. They will also tell us how to enroll ourselves on ONDC and how it works and how does the future looks like. The numbers of late have been very encouraging, which makes us feel that this is a step in the right direction. As somebody said, this can do to e-commerce what UPI did to the payments in India, digital payments in India. So, uh, with that thought, I'm gonna end my address, and I request all of you to listen carefully to the words of wisdom by the guys who are running ONDC and understand how it works for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuragji. Murli, I hand it over to you now. Uh, a short note about how Wow Momo has plugged into the network and your experiences from that, please.
Yeah. So thank you, NRAI. Thank you, Nuragji. Thank you, Pranav, for this opportunity. You know, I'm often reminded of this line since the time I've been reading about ONDC and getting into ONDC. You know, it says that jiski anaj roti uski. So I think this is so true for us when it comes to ONDC. It's my grain and my own roti. I'll make a roti out of it or a fajita out of it. Right. So that's what ONDC is doing to us, and which is a wonderful initiative. What our journey with ONDC, I think we started a little early, right from enlisting ourselves on Magic Pin as well as Paytm initially, and now we are across all the platforms because we believe that there are certain myths which we have tried to unlearn while we were on, and I have put in a small four slider, just our experiences and whatever I have learned. It's very personal. It might be right, wrong, and we have Shirish ji and Marichi to to correct me also and correct the entire fraternity here. So I would spend 5 minutes in just taking you all through my thought process and our thought process. So can I change the slides here? Yeah. Yeah. So what is ONDC is very simple to we've been hearing a lot, but I just thought and put it in very simpler human words. It's an open network, which is matlab anybody can come. It's open for all. Anyone can register himself, and sell his product. Anyone can be a buyer. Anyone can register himself only as a logistics provider. I have a bike. I am a human being. I can register myself as a logistic guy. So it's open for all. That's number one. Uh, it's an enabler. I personally feel that today, overall, the expansion of the fraternity is equally important. While the growth is happening, organic growth is happening, there has been a catapult due to COVID, etc., etc. Still, there is a requirement for one big boom for the entire on e-commerce as a whole to explode in the country today. And I have certain numbers which I'll come in my next slides. Third, I find it is it's an enabler for a broad-based innovation. It's imagine it's like you have a great idea, you have a great business, you want to reach out and be discovered, be told to the people. That's what this ONDC platform does, and I therefore feel that this is a strong community-led initiative by the ONDC as a network itself is for the community and for the fraternity. Hence, all the actions are for the fraternity, right from its for us, right from number sharing, data unmasking, right from owning our own delivery if required, right to owning the knowing the customer, owning the customer real time. It's happening for the first time in us with ONDC, and that's what we are seeing. What I have also put in the next slide is what is not ONDC, and this is all myths which I have completely broken to my own my own prism I have broken. The team who've been working in Momo has realized on this, that this is not an application or a platform. Okay, yeah, but this is definitely not something that is by central government, and someone is working as a central intermediary. No, it's an intermediary. It's not that. It's a very simple, like I said, previous slide, open network. If you have a great business, register yourself and work out. There are buyer app, there are seller app. Register yourself with a hardcore selling app, and do your own commerce, and keep the terms of your trade in under your control. That's what this is doing. Obviously this is not a medium to help digitize business. This is not अपनी दुकान open करने को आपको help करने नहीं यहाँ पे. It's not a digitizing or helping you to digitize your business. It is not that. It is not a tool. It is not an AI. Nothing. And you are responsible for your product, and no one else, no third party is responsible for your product. So if your product is, and the entire, I'm sure both Marichi and Shiriji will take you through the refund and the entire processes in this call. So it's your responsibility. आपकी responsibility है. It's your headache, and it's not a government body or platform. We are not talking about it's a pro or con. We are not talking about it. So this is what I feel that ONDC is not, because I entered this entire ONDC conversation with this thought. And what is this? What is the promise? For us, what is there? What is the strong promise for us? Is number one, increase reach. Where I was just going through the numbers. Around 700 million internet users, and there are only 30 to 40 million monthly average user base for Swiggy and Zomato today, right? For both the aggregators. So, and I'm sure in that there will also be overlaps. So where is this different? Where how are we 1/10? And that is what, to me, I see ONDC as. ONDC is here to take that 30-40 million day, monthly user base to a 400-300 million monthly user base. That's what ONDC is, and that's the power of ONDC. And the power of ONDC is not only limited to the large players. It is actually will be unleashed when the smaller players wake up to this, right? Second is, it is increased discoverability. Yeah. Where and I personally feel that the day I realized I want to get into this entire ONDC conversation, I ensured that Wow Momo, Wow China, and both and Wow Chicken, and all three brands are present across all the platforms, be it a Paytm, be it a Magic Pin, be it a Phone Pay pin code, or to now I'm having conversations with all other ONDC enablers, right from a Misho to everyone, because that is what I feel will is the moat of the entire initiative, is that आपकी visibility को expand करना है. That's what is all about. Increased profitability. No, who doesn't want this cream? Yeah. We all wanted this cream. We all wanted this another. Like Anurag ji said, that someone to come and cut the 4 Ds. I added one more D, which is the D should come in the first, which is demon of delivery, demon of discounting, and and the entire the 4 Ds needs to be completely controlled. And I am not saying that everybody is here to do commerce and everybody should make enough, but we should not be making enough at the cost of other businesses. There are businesses which are suffering a lot at the ground level. It is, I think, for me, I look at this in a very simple manner. ONDC has leveled the playing field, and it will only be propelled more and more as and when we are inspired, and we are inspiring more and more people to come onto the board. Because here also there are lot of bucket list that needs to be kicked well, right from who's going to build the logistics, how strong can we create our own logistics in ONDC. This entire conversation of ONDC being a boom will only be a boom when we all start believing in ONDC and coming onto the platform, right? Then and to me, the two most important pointers beyond profitability is, how am I making my business very highly insightful, and that's and how am I increasing stickiness for my brand. And therefore, when I say insightful, I would cover like how am I becoming data ready. That is what I think restaurant's first job is. Because ONDC, first and foremost, for a restaurateur, beyond profitability, is also getting great data of your consumer, taking control of your consumer, right? How are you going to become data ready? How are you going to ensure that you are hyper personalizing it? How are you ensuring that your Marathali store, which possibly is down with possibly few extra plates of say chili chicken, how are you going to ensure that Marathali store is possibly milking more out of chili chicken in that particular day? And how you are going to become hyper local, how are you identifying, clustering your entire consumer into who is the consumer who is possibly buying high value items, low value items. How are you going to ensure that you are creating a business which is catering to a set of audiences, understanding nature of that audiences. And like I said, that visibility increment is should be your first and foremost priority. Be present in all the ONDC enabled partners, because that is going to give you a mightier strength. And if and if you have, say, a great logistic system in-house, then empanel yourself as a logistic partner, or empanel yourself as a seller directly if you want. Have a conversation with the ONDC team, ONDC experts, and maybe that's when you will start, making most out of your own business. And fifth point, which I personally feel that every single restaurant should now start practicing, because a lot of thing from our previous listing, previous aggregator experiences, a lot of listing logic, visibility logic, and all was templatized. But here you have to create your own template. So when you are creating your own template, you will have to work around with strong intuitiveness. How strong, how easy is your cataloging? How well you are stacked? How descriptive is your imagery? Those things will be mattering a lot, because you will not have a template to come and take care of your listing and take care of your onboarding. And therefore, my next slide, which is because I am very I believe that it's very important for marketers also to understand the might of this platform. I personally feel that these are the 5 things which I am practicing at my end. Number one, my catalog. I'm trying to simplify my catalog in my ONDC platform, because ONDC is for mass, is for is possibly a lot of first time aggregator users are going to come on ONDC. So you need to ensure that you are very, very clear. He might not even know what is a right swipe and a left swipe. So hence your cataloging has to be very simple and intuitive, which is very easy to understand. Number two, make compelling images. Make images that are extremely salivating. You Here you don't have that 30-40 rule. You don't have multiple rules, but here simple. जो दिखेगा उसको he is expecting you to send that in the delivery to ensure that your images are perfect. Top of search is very important, because you're going to be part of a marketplace. You're not going to be part of an aggregator, right? So therefore, ensuring that your tags, your meta tags, your the keywords which you're using in your menu and all are perfect. Therefore, you will reach a TOS, which is top of search. And fourth point is performance marketing. Please, please, please invest in the platform first. That is more important. If you are on Misho, if you are on Paytm, if you are on phone pay, you are on magic pin, ensure that you are talking to all your partners together like a key account manager, ensuring that you're taking enough bit link from them, so that your performance marketing can lead on to that. Even if one SMS you send should be, those SMS should have links of that ONDC partner, so that your business stays with you, your business comes to ONDC, correct? And pricing to be audience driven, yeah. And understand, and like I kept on saying that we are not here to voice for a discount war. It is not about how sasta we are on ONDC. That is not the mode. At NRAI, we believe that we are here to create. Everyone is here to create profitability. Nobody is here to nobody is here to burn. So hence, it is not a discount war or a price war. It is in it is hyper localized, smart consumer pricing. And thank you. That's my most favorite slide.
Thank you,
These
Murli.
are all my personal experiences. And Pranav, over to you.
Thank you, Murli. Thank you. Really informative. Uh, we hand over to Marichi now, who will take us on a short presentation about what is ONDC and take it from there. Thanks, Marichi.
Okay, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Are you all able to see? Are you able to see this?
Yes,
Yeah.
slide down.
Great. Thanks, Pranav. Thanks, Murli, for the very detailed walkthrough. I was wondering, probably I don't need to present after your detailed walkthrough. Uh, um, but it's a pleasure being on this panel and talking about ONDC. We've been working with the NRAI for now almost a year now, and it's great to see this town hall happen here today. And we're very excited at the current juncture at where ONDC is. So without much ado, I'll kind of start presentation. So if you look at current trends in online food delivery market in India is estimated to grow sixfold to 30 billion by 2020 or 2030. This is as per the ONDC McKinsey report, which we've published, and all of you can access that report on our ONDC website. I think rapid adoption of cashless and contactless payment will also help fuel the growth to the next year because that's a very key component of the digital commerce space. Restaurants, due to margin pressures, are increasingly exploring direct to consumer routes. Cloud kitchens are helping restaurants to open and explore new towns, cities, localities, and expand their footprints. And I think the big one also is going to be, and I think Murli already touched a bit about it, was how online business, the growth of online ordering will start seeing hyper targeting at very pin code level. So you will be able to start targeting very pin code specific demand and trigger some of those pieces. So restaurants, and I think I'm preaching to the wrong choir here, but restaurants are facing numerous challenges: high buyer acquisition costs, marketing spends, understanding legal compliances. This becomes tricky, especially for smaller restaurants. We get asked a lot of questions around taxation, the legal compliances, etc., in terms of what is required. Access to a wide consumer market for a restaurant is critical, which is currently controlled essentially by a few closed black boxes, which are the platforms. Access to data is something which has come out very strongly, and a lot of you have spoken about it, and we've heard this through numerous interactions that data is very critical because it helps the restaurant plan, which is currently not available. Food delivery is again concentrated in our in metro tier one. So how do we kind of scale it to the next tier of cities profitably? Small restaurants find it difficult to digitize. How do I digitize? Who will digitize? The whole managing of that order process, etc. They need a little more hand holding. So that's one of the pieces which is there. And logistics, I think the biggest Achilles heels for online food delivery is logistics, and we've seen of late, with surge in demand in the metros, we are already seeing certain gaps on the logistics side. So how can we kind of look at ways in which we enhance logistics and create logistic options where more and more players, partners can come in and help solve that? So what ONDC has been designed very clearly is to offer multiple choices, and I'm now talking more from a seller perspective. A lot of choices for sellers to decide what are their terms and conditions, what they want to sell, when they want to sell, what is the pricing they want to keep, what are the offers they want to run. So that whole piece to give the retailers to the restaurateurs back that control, which is currently missing. Discoverability of buyers and sellers without having to be stuck with where you are listed. Can discovery be made size agnostic? Can it be the smallest to the biggest seller can have discoverability without having to worry about which black box they are connected to and which they are missing from? And I think opportunity for smaller players, smaller e-commerce players, to kind of come together and build the entire e-commerce value chain, which is currently quite tricky because if you have to do all the elements with demand generation, supply aggregation, fulfillment, it's a costly piece and it creates a barrier for smaller players to come on board. if you look at how current e-commerce works, and this is just representation, buyers, sellers, and logistics sit within black boxes, right? And there are proprietary protocols within those black boxes which allow, and black boxes I mean platforms, allow sellers and buyers to interact with each other. But buyers of, say, in this example, platform 1 cannot access sellers of platform 2 unless the seller of platform 2 is also listed on platform 1. So this creates closed ecosystems, and it does not allow cross pollination between platforms. So ONDC protocol has been built with a very basic premise, which is to enable unconnected entities to come together and be able to communicate with each other. And if you look at the left of the side, and I'll try and explain this a little better, is you think about how email works, right? It doesn't matter which is your email client, whether you're using a private email client, you're using an official email client, irrespective of your email client, you're able to send and receive email and communication, and you can send it to anyone across the world. What allows that to happen is an open protocol, which is the SMT protocol, which allows emails to go there. So think about ONDC as an equivalent to an SMT protocol, just like in the SMT protocol allows communication to freely flow between all interconnected entities. ONDC is building a network where all organizations who are connected to the ONDC network can transact with each other. And any product or service which can be digitally transacted can come onto the ONDC network. So how will this disrupt? So if you look at the current way, all these activities, which is on the buyer side, which is on the demand generation side, or the seller side, which is on the catalog management, order fulfillment, seller onboarding, return cancellations, and the fulfillment, all sit within the platform black box. Now think about a situation when all these three core activities, which is demand generation, supply aggregation, and logistic fulfillment, can be debundled and can be created into standalone activities. Organizations can decide what is their core focus and do only that. So if you are an organization and have a large user funnel and do not have the sellers currently onboarded, all you need to do is plug in your customer funnel, do demand generation, and allow other partners on the network to build the seller density and provide logistic services. Now, the buyer application in this example does not need to build the other two legs. Similarly, it goes for seller applications as well as logistic providers, and all this works in an open protocol, which is the ONDC's premise. So what we are creating is a universal buyer-seller logistic network. Buyer applications will connect to the networks, different seller networks will connect. You could be a directly integrated seller where you are coming direct onto the network, or you could be a seller who's integrated through a marketplace, just like Murli kind of talked about it a little time back. You could be a logistic provider who's offering services. The beauty of ONDC is that all these players can independently offer their services on the network and only offer services which are their strengths. They only need to connect and do an integration with the network. Once an organization does its network integration, then it does not need to do one-on-one connection with all the network partners. As new network partners come on board, the interconnected network partners will be able to transact with each other. So what this means is that if seller app A in this example is done its integration with ONDC network, and it is currently have buyer app B, A, and B, tomorrow when buyer app C, buyer app D, so on and so forth go on live on the network, they do not need to one-on-one do any integration. All those buyer app nodes, the moment they connect onto the ONDC network, will automatically be able to discover all the sellers which are on the network. So seller nodes, buyer nodes, all will become discoverable by each other. On ONDC, whether you're a buyer or a seller, you need to kind of get a single register. You get a single registry on the network. Once you have that single registry on the network, you can operate on the network. Network offers a few services which are central to the network. So you have buyer applications providing demand generation services, seller applications providing seller aggregation services, or directly integrated sellers providing their catalogs and products, logistic players providing their logistic fulfillment services. And there are certain services which will sit central on the ONDC network. Services like registry, services like network policy, your reputation ledger, which currently resides at a platform level, which prevents you as a seller from moving from one platform to another because your reputation ledger sits on one platform. Now, reputation ledgers will, if go in future, sit on the network. So you will have a network-wide reputation ledger, and you will not need to worry about which network entity you are connected through, whether you're directly connected, are you connected through entity A or B. Your reputation ledger is tagged to you. So every time you move, it makes no impact to your visibility on the network because your reputation stays the same and buyers can continue to discover you. Additional services which we are in the process of building onto the network is an issue grievance management system, where all issues which come through in terms of the normal thing, I didn't receive my food, how do I manage this, there was an item which was missing, my food came damaged, etc. All these will be enabled through protocols on the network. And reconciliation as a service will also be an additional service which will be there for partners to use. This is how the network currently looks. So if you see over there, this is showing the interconnected entities, right? All connected entities. This is how the network looks. So if you look on top, this is the list of all buyer applications who are currently live. So we have over 10 buyer applications. They're bringing more than 100 million potential buyers onto the network. These are large funnels, buyer funnels, and many more are in the process of either joining or joining soon. You have 7 logistic applications which are already integrated, and for food specifically we have Dunzo, Shadowfax, and Grab offering food delivery services. Grab is in the process of integrating and they will offer. If you look at on the seller side, you have the likes of Magic Pin, eSamudai, Growth Falcon, You Engage, to name a few, who are acting as seller aggregating app. We also have sellers who are directly integrating. Chai Point is an example of a seller who's already in the process, a very advanced stages of integrating onto the network, and they should go live. Similarly, we have many interests which have come through in the last few weeks. We have more than 100 entities. Pretty much every single relevant large small entity in the F&B ecosystem is currently talking to us, is engaging with us, is either in the process of integrating with us or in advanced stages of discussion of integrating with us. Large brands are coming on directly because they see there's a lot of value involved in coming directly onto the network. In case some of you want to experience buying on the ONDC network, if you scan the QR code on the bottom right of the page, you will be taken to the web page where all our buyer application links are listed, so you can kind of access the buyer applications and experience shopping on the ONDC network. I would just take you through how a buying journey on ONDC would look like. Vijay is a customer. He logs into a buyer application. Let's assume it's the buyer application is Paytm, just for example's sake. On the buyer application, Vijay searches for pizza. The buyer application will broadcast that pizza search through the ONDC gateway, which has the multi-domain registry of all the sellers on the network. And basis that check, it will send the search request to all the seller nodes who've registered for that particular category. Now, in this example, seller nodes will respond back again via the ONDC gateway to the buyer application. In this example, two search results have come. Again, please, these are only for illustrative purposes and none, for nothing else. 2 search results come back. La Pinos, which is offering at 150 rupees but without delivery. Tossin, which is fulfilled by one of our network partners, is offering pizza with delivery at 225. Now let's assume Vijay chooses to order pizza through La Pinos without delivery. Now Vijay, once he's chosen, he can then search for delivery services. The gateway will again check for all the logistic and delivery service providers on the network. They will broadcast back their search for that particular transaction and list down availability as well as pricing. Vijay will then choose or make an informed decision about who or he wants to choose. In this example, Vijay chooses Dunzo to deliver. Dunzo is offering 50 rupees and Loadshare is offering 70 rupees to his pin code. Vijay selects Dunzo for his delivery, completes the entire cart and does a checkout, and then he pays through the consumer app, which is the buyer interface app for him, and he pays via UPI or COD or prepayment. And that's how the entire transaction flow works on the ONDC network. So there are benefits to everyone. For sellers, ONDC offers size agnostic delivery. So your size doesn't matter. You could be the smallest and the smallest standalone store in a neighborhood. If it allows you equal footing on discovery. You're discoverable by the entire universe of customers who are coming through multiple demand generation funnels. So you're not limited to a particular demand generation funnel. You have access to multiple demand generation funnels. You just have to maintain a one-time single registry. You have the freedom to define your terms and conditions, and you can decide which transactions you want to participate and which transaction you can't. You don't want to, you can define whether you will take prepaid only orders, whether you will accept COD orders, will accept cancellation. If you don't want to accept cancellation, so on and so forth. You can define on those terms on the network, and network will have a reputation wide ledger. On the buyer side, the buyer will have a single access. Through one single buyer application, he can access multiple domains, because ONDC is not just built for F&B, it is built for anything which can be digitally transacted. So we'll have multiple categories. We already have 6 categories which are live, and we are adding new categories literally every week. All sellers can access all seller catalogs can be accessed by the buyer. Okay, for all the categories, all sellers can be accessed, whoever is serving to that particular pin code of the buyer. Buyer gets a unified experience. The buyer doesn't have to jump through multiple applications. From one application, he can buy a pizza, as well as book a taxi, as well as buy his airline tickets, book a hotel, as well as do a restaurant reservation. All of it is possible now through a unified experience and through one application, because all these categories will be enabled. For a buyer application, it's as easy as switching on a switch. The buyer application, once they've done an integration, once they decide which categories they want to do, they just enable those categories. They don't have to do anything to build those categories, manage the sellers, get the sellers on board, aggregate the sellers, manage their catalogs, nothing. All it's a simple switch. Once they decide they want to do a particular category, they activate that category's visibility to the buyer application to their buyers, and the buyers can access that category. So that's on the buyer side. Wide options, price, delivery. We've given some examples of a user journey, how it could be. I think buyer experience will be the key differentiator. And different buyer application might have different hero categories which they promote. But buyers will decide which is the application they like the best. Just like if you look at UPI, I may prefer a particular interface, whereas some of you may your preference for an interface will be different from mine. But irrespective of which interface we use, we are still able to transact and send money from one account to the other. Essentially, it's the same principle on ONDC. If you see what is ONDC's impact now, we are now have 35,000 plus sellers. On F&B specifically, we are at 32,000 plus sellers. We are available in 236 alpha cities. So these are cities which are live and discoverable on the buyer application, but they are live in a closed user group and not being actively marketed, because we are still building supply density in these towns. As we build supply densities, we enable those cities and make them beta live. Currently, we have 2 beta live cities, which is Bangalore and Meerut, which are being marketed, and aggressively we are driving orders in these cities. We have 44 lakh SKUs which are live on the network. We have currently 42 plus network partners who are in advanced stages of integration, and more than 3,000 network partners who are discussing with us across various categories. So there is a lot of interest on ONDC, and everyone is very keen to now understand more and join the network at the earliest. Murli again captured this, so I'll not spend too much time. I think the most important part to understand is we are not a platform, so there is no app which you can go to an app store and download an ONDC app. Your app, your buyer interface will be essentially the buyer node you decide to choose to access the ONDC interface. It's in a model which is doesn't have a set pattern. You can decide your model. There are infinite model business models possible. It is fertile for innovation. It's a market-led community, and we publish all our policy documents, all our papers publicly. We attract community inputs on that. And everything is transparently published. If you visit our site ondc.org, you can get access to a whole bunch of resources, all our documents, public policies, good behavior, bad behavior on the ONDC network, and various other resources, including who are the various network partners who are live, who are the various network partners who are in advanced stages, which categories those network partners are. And also you can identify technology service providers who are providing technology service solutions on the network. We are a government-backed entity, but we are set up as a not-for-profit Section 8 company. Our charter is not profit. Our mandate is very clear. Our mandate is to grow the digital footprint presence in the country. But ONDC as a tech as a network has been built not just for India. It is made in India, but it is made for the world. There are three essential ways in which a restaurant partner can join the ONDC network. Either you can choose any of the live aggregating apps. So we have 10 aggregating apps who are already live on the network, with many more joining. You can join the network through them. Here, then the technical integration is done by the aggregating application, and you just need to get onboarded through that application. In case you want to be a directly integrated network partner, you would need to have certain technical capabilities because you need to connect to our open APIs. In case you still are interested to come on directly but do not have the relevant technical capability, we have technology service providers who will help you go live onto the network directly. All that information you can find on ondc.org. Please scan that QR code. That QR code is to our website. You can visit it and access more information. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Marichi. That was really, really informative. I know a lot of questions were answered during your presentation, but let me start with the Q&A now because a lot of people have written into us. Some of them may be repetitive, but please let's take them up one by one. So Surya Agarwal asks us, what about quality control and accountability in ONDC? Shirish or Marichi, either of you could take this one.
Yeah, sure. So quality has always been a seller's requirement. It's a seller who determines the quality. Who determines quality when I walk into a Kirana store and buy a pack of masala? Is it the store that is responsible for the quality? No, it's the original manufacturer. That's always been true. Who's responsible for quality if I buy a ticket from a travel agent and the airline seats are dirty? Travel agent is not responsible. So product quality is always the responsibility of the creator of the product or that service. True, regardless of platform, and therefore nothing different for ONDC. The seller is responsible for product quality. Very simple, as it has always been anywhere else.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Mr. Mithaiwala. He says, do we have to list separately on Meesho, PhonePe, Paytm, MagicPin?
No, then you've not understood how ONDC works. Think about the internet, right? And imagine if you are publishing a website. Do you need to publish a website individually on Firefox, Opera, Chrome, Safari? You don't. Once you connect your website to the internet, any person on any browser can see it. So same way on ONDC, as a seller, once you have registered on any one seller platform, all buyers on all buyer platforms can see you. You do not need to individually register. Same thing happens with your phone. You decide on one phone operator, you stick their SIM card in your phone and you register whatever that 5-digit number you dial and your SIM card is registered. The entire world, all phone customers on all phone operators around the world can call you. You don't individually go and register on Deutsche Telekom and Japan Telecom and AT&T and everybody else, right? So open networks work in a very, very simple fashion. You just need to connect once, and the entire universe on the other side can connect with you.
Thank you. There are 2-3 questions, one from Mohammad Azhar, one from Ashok More, on how do we connect to the network. So I think I'll simply just explain it. There are multiple seller side network partners, which will be listed after this, right? You can go onto the ONDC website also. You have to just go and log on to them. You upload your menu onto them. Many of them are also POS players, so we're going to have Paytm, Paid Pujar and the likes coming onto this. There are some of the order direct players like Thrive and DotPay who are now going to come onto ONDC. So the minute you uploaded your menu in many of these platforms, that menu will automatically go through from that player to the network. The network will then list it on all the seller partners, which are the Paytms, PhonePays, Mishos, and you will be live. Both these network partners have to do is just fulfill the terms of engagement of the network. So all you need to do is just look for a network partner on the seller side, and you can onboard. One question which is from Mrinal Verma is about what about the customer grievance handling?
So customer grievance handling is very simple. The customer raises it with the buyer application, and the buyer application over the protocol relays that if it's a seller issue, sometimes it may be a buyer application issue. Maybe payment has been made and order has not been confirmed. That may be a buyer application issue. But if it is relates to the seller, then the protocol has the API calls by which that can be relayed to the seller, and seller can respond with redressal. Should the seller's response not be satisfactory to the buyer, then the buyer application can take it up as an issue with the seller application. The network participant agreement, in accordance with the e-commerce rules, require e-commerce entities to have a grievance officer. So if software to software it could not get resolved, then the grievance officers will interact by phone, email, or by whatever means they've established as contact points, and they will resolve it. Now, in traditional e-commerce, currently, also the same thing happens. You, as a buyer, are working with the marketplace. So you raise the issue with the marketplace, who raise it with the seller. So again, you have two parties involved in existing e-commerce. You have two parties involved in ONDC. What's marketplace in the existing e-commerce structure is a buyer application for purposes of in the ONDC structure.
Perfect. There's a follow-up question from Shankar Kasirajan. Currently, there are 10 seller apps. In the future, it could be thousands. How do we as restaurants choose the right seller app? What are the criteria or differentiators between the various sellers?
So there is no easy answer, and there are many kinds of services in which such a wide variety would be possible. If you have a child who becomes a schooling age, there are hundreds of schools in the city. How do you decide which school to go to? So you will figure out your own inquiries, you will ask friends, and you will figure out a way to filter. Some may not be available to you for whatever reason, etc. So you eventually boil it down. But what the real point is that when there are multiple choices, then the ability of any particular platform to demand you to comply goes down. And so you will then be able to, as a buyer, you will have a lot more freedom, you will have a lot more power than currently, where just a couple of applications basically control your application, your access to a large pool of sellers. So the power will come back to you rather than you being dependent. Right? What happens if you go to, let's say, if you go to buy vegetables and you go to a neighboring vegetable market, there are 50 vendors. So now what can an individual vendor do? They can't play games with you. If they try and overcharge you, you'll simply go to the next one, if not the next one, if not the next one. So when there is multiple choice for the buyer, then the buyer automatically has an inbuilt protection. Yes, you do have that question on. So if you go to the Sarji Mandi, who do I buy my gobi from? Well, you look around and decide who you want to buy it from. The point is, it will be your decision, not some intermediary who's telling you, no, you can only buy from this party and nobody else.
So follow up to this, Shirish, if you can just throw light on portability within the network, right? How you can port from one seller network partner to other seller network partner and keeping your reputation intact.
Yeah. So the principle is again like website, right? So today I might host my website on one particular platform for whatever reason. If I think it's not stable or it's not providing me good service or it's too expensive, I can just simply move to the next one. And if let's say my website was built for certain search optimization, transporting that content, I'm still optimized the same way, and so somebody searching for me will still find me. It doesn't change. Right? So that's the search capability on the internet. Now, on ONDC, the reputation is linked with the seller ID, not the port through which you're connected. And so if you change the seller application through which you're connected, doesn't matter, because you have an identity, you have your own KYC, and so your reputation is tied with that, which actually creates an inbuilt incentive for the to build a good reputation, because now they can't hide. You can't simply go to another platform because your identity documents are same, your address of operation is same, and so you'll end up not being able to hide a bad reputation. But if you have a good reputation, then you can carry it wherever you go, and it's not dependent on the party that you're connected to. So if a seller application is not providing you good service, you can simply shift to another one and lose nothing. You will still have access to the entire universe of buyers. So nobody's single-handedly controlling that, okay, if you don't go through me, you won't get the buyers. Today, in closed platforms, that tends to be a risk. So sellers now can own the asset that they have created. Remember, reputation is created by the seller. But in the current system, the reputation gets locked inside a platform. And when the seller goes to another platform, they have to start from zero. So their own effort is locked away somewhere else. It's no effort on the part of the platform. The reputation is created, but they kind of host it and they lock it up. So it's your asset. You've created it. It's available to you to benefit from network-wide.
Thank you. I'm actually going to club two questions here. We have a question from Karan Kabu, which says that how do you intend to advertise on ONDC to the masses? And sellers will enroll, but how are buyers going to come on board? There's a second question, which also talks about, won't this lead to seller apps charging for discoverability and top positioning? I think both of these you can cover together, maybe.
Okay, so seller apps don't have buyers. Seller apps are simply connecting their catalog. So how will they charge for discoverability? Seller apps can't charge for discoverability. Discoverability charge, if at all, can be charged by somebody who has an audience. So sellers are simply putting their catalogs in. Can you just read off that question again, Pranav?
So I'll just so basically he's asking if I need to advertise on the network, right? I'll be advertising on a seller side, a buyer side network partner.
Sure.
So what is the logic that they have to this thing to ensure that my listing comes on top?
Okay, so the entire notion of advertising in a shopping platform has been driven by the current market structure, where a couple of players pretty much dominate the entire landscape. So if you think about how brands traditionally spend money in the pre-digital era, brands actually spent money only in one place, which is just media that would build awareness amongst consumers, and consumers went to some shop or the other and they bought it. Very little advertising was done inside the shop. Yes, you would hang up some dangler and some poster, which was not very expensive. Sometimes brands would take one particular shelf for display, which was also not expensive, and you will decide. The stores will not decide where you will do. So if one particular, let's say I have a face cream that I'm putting up in one medical store, and the medical store says, oh, my display is 50,000 rupees a month, you'll just go to the neighboring chemist store, and the shoppers who are walking by are seeing all display windows, not yours, right? So the ability in a multi-buyer application scenario to command unique audience is zero. Audience can just simply go to any other buyer application and do it. So today on my phone, I have 4 or 5 applications that are currently live, and in another few months, there'll be another 4 or 5 that will come live. Now, if any seller has to reach me, which of those 10 applications will they pay to reach me? They can reach me through any 10. So why will they pay to anyone? And why will anyone be able to charge? So this whole behavior that we've got tuned to is because 3 worlds are where people are spending money. Today, brands are spending money to build awareness through whatever media they're choosing, digital or traditional, whichever way they're doing it. Second, they're spending money to buy their own brand as a search term, because once awareness gets built, people search. And if your competitor buys a search, then your advertising spending is driving their traffic. And then through search, when you discover shopping platforms, then in the shopping platform, again, you're paying money for third time. So brands are actually spending money 3 times. And I expect that over a period of time, the second, third spends will start to come down, because each buyer application is a search tool. Therefore, no one search entity is really controlling the search universe. And second, you have many platforms on which through which you can get to the same shops. So a shop has no reason to spend money on one particular buyer avenue to use. So it will go. I think the power will move back to just brands and manufacturers talking directly to consumers, and the shopping network being completely democratized and not being able to command any additional value over that, or at least not as much as they're able to do today in the current structure.
Sorry, I'm just interjecting here once. Isn't there like across like all the, say, today smaller brands use SMS as a very important tool, and small marketing exercises like WhatsApp exercises as a tool. there is no unified brand link which we can promote through these WhatsApp links, so that they can click on that link.
You can. So you can provide a deep link, and in the SMS, if you embed that link, then when the customer clicks, forget going to your store. They can directly go to the cart with the product already added to the cart.
Right.
So now every advertising that brands can create, if they, let's say, embed a QR code, or if it is in digital form, a link, then you can directly move from advertising to sales without requiring any interaction with a particular platform to get.
Correct. I'm going to club 3 questions because they're all around customer service. So Ashok More asks, what if my product is lost during transit or damaged by a delivery agent from the ONDC registered platform? Mrinal Verma asks, what will be the turnaround time for any refund process, which usually is the concern for customers when they order through aggregators? And Gautam Dandekar asks, what about incomplete delivery, wrong delivery, or refunds?
Okay. So refunds is straightforward. At the time that the customer is buying, you will be told if it is refundable, returnable, cancelable, etc. It will be very explicitly mentioned. You can click on the terms that the seller has put. So you will be fully aware as to what the terms are at the time it got signed. Now, seller, this issue around seller is a buyer issue and a seller issue. Buyer, what if I get the wrong product? Sellers are worried, what if customers start playing naughty and return perfectly good products, them back to claim refunds, or wear clothes, take pictures or whatever and send back. So the complaint is on both sides. The simple principle is the terms and conditions involved. So buyers will know what terms and conditions they are operating with, and basis that, let's say there's a returns window, they'll be able to do it. Sellers, meanwhile, also declare what is their method of validating a return. Some sellers will say, yeah, simply return it. Some will say that send me a picture, I will validate that it's my product, and then you can send it back. Platforms do that today. If it's high value item, a seller might say, my delivery person, when they come to pick it up, they will validate it's the correct product. So in mobile phones, people will match IMEI numbers or some such thing to make sure that what is being returned is valid. So the good news is that ONDC is coming at a time when e-commerce has been around for many years. And so a lot of these things have been solved for. And anything that has a solution is also available on ONDC. So whatever practices have existed to enable these exist. Now, refund timings are more related to whatever is the banking turnaround time based on what is the method of refund created. So that will not be any different than it is today.
Great,
Now, there were 3 questions. Did I answer all parts of all questions, Pranav? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think most of it was about refunds, and I think most of them were covered, yes. There's one which talks about, can you please give an indication on the payments that restaurants need to make for ONDC services? And there's another question from Vijay M, which asks, what are the commissions for various models?
All right. So currently we don't have the full-blown model, but assume a future state when even payment on delivery or cash on delivery are also enabled, which will be fairly soon. So now in that scenario, we have one of 3 parties can collect the money. In most cases, it will be the buyer application collecting the money, because often buyers are selecting a cart out of multiple sellers, and it's just simpler for buyer app to collect one collective amount and settle it with everybody else. So that will be the most likely scenario. But conceptually, a buyer app can collect the money. A seller app can also collect the money. There'll be some buyer apps which may not want to handle payments. And or the third is where the payment is going to be on delivery, then the delivery company will collect the money. So one of these 3 parties can collect the money. They have to settle with the others. That's the basic payment one. ONDC does not handle the money. This is between the apps. ONDC only facilitates creation of the transaction, enables through the protocol the transaction records to get created, and the terms and conditions are embedded with them. After that, it's a bilateral settlement between the parties, which again, if there is an issue, then there is a mechanism to capture that and address that. But it's now whatever payment gateways they've enabled. So if let's say payment on delivery is enabled and the delivery company has enabled only cash, then the customer can only pay cash. If the delivery partner has enabled cash and UPI, then the customer can pay by UPI. So what payment method can be done is really dependent on the entity that is collecting the money. And of course, at the time the customer is checking out, they will know which of those payment tools they are able to or not able to. And if, let's say the person only has credit cards enabled for whatever reason, and the customer can do net banking, UPI, cash, but doesn't have credit card, then they will not close out that card, and the sale will get closed. So nothing very complicated. The payment is handled by the commercial entities, not by ONDC, and really depends on what they have embedded in the system.
Got it. This is a very interesting question from Dimple Trivedi. It says, does the ONDC have a business verification system to ensure cyber fraudsters don't create duplicate brands, which traps the end users to buy from the identical fake brand?
Okay, there was one other question in the earlier one which I didn't answer, so I'll come to this fraud part. They were asking how much will ONDC charge. So ONDC
Right.
currently is not charging anything. That does not mean it won't charge anything forever. So ONDC is a not-for-profit organization. We are a private sector Section 8 company. So right now our shareholder funds are sufficient for several months more to come. And if need be, we will have the ability to raise more if we need. We do think that long term, of course, everything is not going to be funded through shareholder funds. Eventually, we'll have to have a model by which our ongoing expenses are recovered. We don't need to make profit, and we'll always be a lean organization. So, in the long run, we expect two kinds of charges, possibly. This is not a declaration that this is what we will charge, but we envisage possibility of two kinds of charges. One is like when you take an internet domain name, right? You pay a registry fee, and that URL is yours as long as you're paying that annual charge. So we anticipate a similar registry maintenance fee of the participants. It will be very, very nominal on an annual basis. And as a percentage of transaction for even a moderate scale player, it will be very, very negligible. So that's one. The other charge we might levy is a very, very small fraction of a percentage per transaction. And when we're doing billions, even a very small fraction will be enough to recover our costs. So the principle is to keep ONDC costs currently zero, even when we charge to such a minimal that it will never be a roadblock for even for a small seller to do e-commerce. So that's kind of general principle. Now let me come to the current question, which has to do with frauds. The responsibility of frauds is not on ONDC. Right? So if I, let's say, on tele-banking, if I sell a fraudulent flight ticket to somebody, the phone company is not responsible. So the seller who is engaging in that fraud is the party that is responsible. When there is duplication, brands have to trigger action. That happens even today. So brands have to say that my copyright is being infringed and address it. And that happens even in creative services. If somebody has created a tune and another singer does it, no platform can do it. The person whose original copyright is will say, okay, that tune resembles what I've done, and I'll file a case. So the responsibility of spotting, first of all, informing your consumers how to know the genuine product. Second, wherever there is fraudulent, to catch that and take action is based on the owners of the copyright. That's how it takes place in all channels. And so on ONDC network, it will not be any different. But we do KYC of the seller applications that join us, and seller applications are required to do KYC of the sellers who join. But remember that this is like putting a traffic light. Putting a traffic light does not stop people from jumping signals. Right? So a seller can show the genuine product, say, okay, I'm a authorized seller of so and so brand. Here is, you can test it and verify and hologram or whatever check you want to do. After I'm registered, then I can start selling the fraudulent one. So there is no system that can stop a wrongdoer from doing wrong. Therefore, the mechanism has to be the policing mechanism and catching mechanism. That's not ONDC responsibility. That falls to the parties that currently do that on any online.
Correct. So I think this answers another question asked by Vibhu about what about the delivery riders verification? You said earlier that any
Logistics partners will have to do that. So they'll have to check he has a driving license, his identity is done, etc. So they will do all that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I'll just come in for a minute. Essentially, from what I understand and what Shirish has been trying to say, is understand ONDC is an enabler. And transaction is between two independent parties. And all these responsibilities of verification or anything lies with the parties involved in the transaction, not the platform. Am I right, Shirish?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that answers at a larger basis what lots of people are asking. It's a transaction which is happening between a buyer and a seller. And ONDC as an enabler is just making sure things are happening smoothly over the platform.
Got it. There's a question about sort of business restrictions in terms of products like tobacco and cigarettes.
The policing question. So first of all, our network participants, all respectable organizations that we have validated, have signed an agreement that includes that they will obey all Indian laws. And so whatever is not permitted, if they start selling that, then they're in violation of law, which they have signed on to obey. So that's how it will get controlled and checked.
Got it. This is a question about sort of the beta phase of network. So two, three people have asked that, can you brief us on ONDC's plan to expand into tier 2 cities? Also, ONDC gives access to the database to the sellers, unlike aggregator platforms. So if you can elaborate on that.
Okay.
Another question was, okay, you can take this up first. And then
Yeah, these are very different questions. So one is
Yeah.
the database question, but before that you had another one.
Yeah, it was about the expansion into tier 2 cities and availability
Expansion, yeah.
of riders in tier 2 cities.
So we're actually gone deeper than tier 2 also. We've gone into rural areas as well, because in a disaggregated, decentralized one, a seller can come from anywhere. So one of our shareholders is SIDBI, and SIDBI funds and supports lots of micro enterprises, many of them in rural areas. One of them is a foundation called Mandeshi Foundation, which has brought 8 lakh rural women entrepreneurs on, into operation, taught them basics of branding, packing, etc., opened Jandan accounts, installed QR codes. So they were doing the physical commerce. Now some of those sellers have started joining our network. So forget tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. We are now into rural areas as well. And that's how this network should be, that sellers could come from anywhere. What was the next question? Can you just repeat that, Pranav?
Or the availability of riders in tier 2 and tier 3 cities for logistics.
Over a period of time, it will grow. Now, we have to remember that ONDC is simply connecting various kinds of services. So, people have to stop thinking that there is only one way to do business. Today, there is essentially two kinds of delivery systems. There is the hyperlocal, where a rider goes to the service creation point, like a restaurant, picks up the food and goes and delivers directly. So, it's a point to point. A lot of kirana gets delivered hyperlocal, so that's also point to point. And then there is the intercity, where an item gets picked from a seller's location, goes into a hub, goes into sorting, goes to another hub, then to another hub, and eventually out for delivery somewhere else. Right? So that's the other system. But there are many other systems today. And ONDC, in theory, can allow all those systems to get connected to our network. So one of the most cost-efficient food delivery systems in the world, I would think, not just country, is the Dabbawala system of Bombay. Somebody can just simply connect the Dabbawala system to the network, and at least in Bombay, you can do food delivery at a very affordable way. No way are the middle class Maharashtrian Gujarati families in Bombay spending 60 rupees every day to send tiffin to their family members. So you have an efficient system. You have a 4 rupee item like a newspaper delivered cost efficiently to you every morning. Now, 3 hours a day, you have this extremely efficient system. What happens to it for the rest of the day? Can we figure out a way to get the newspaper delivery to do lunches and dinners as well? If somebody can figure that out, you'll have it. So don't look at only the existing solution to be replicated many times and brought to the other one. You can have village level entrepreneurs in a bullock cart or on a bicycle also doing delivery. And if you can connect them, that will become a cost efficient way. So tap into local capacities, and that's how it will take place. So don't expect city clad 10,000 rupee a month salary on Honda scooters going and delivering from one village to another. It could be a very different mode of transport that will take place.
Correct. A question by Akar Akhani. He asks, like restaurant ratings, can the same be implied for choosing seller partners? As in, will the seller partners or the network partners also have ratings, which will enable someone to choose between them?
Yes, they will. They will not only have ratings, because ratings are judgmental, they'll also have performance history. So what percentage of, let's say, the total sales of all the sellers on them have gone without a complaint? How many of those complaints have got resolved? So that's objective performance information. So that information will be available for buyer applications as an input to decide how they want to make what available or visible.
This is a little tricky question from Faisal Tayyab Ali. He asks, aggregators generally do not allow differential pricing on the other platforms and push back the same. How do we manage that?
Say that again. Aggregators do not allow?
The current aggregators generally do not allow differential pricing on other platforms and push back the same. Most of them have price parity clauses in their agreements with them. So how do we manage that?
Oh, very simple. Yeah, the seller has, this is because each platform is a closed universe. So there are multiple instances, and therefore what this law is saying that make sure that your instances are the same. Here, I have no multiple instances. I, as a seller, have one catalog on one seller application. I'm visible to everyone. It's just that one catalog. It's parity by design. That's like saying that my website should show the same content on all the browsers. Of course, it will. Why will it not?
No, can I add something here, Shirish? No,
Yeah.
sometimes, the pricing decisions anyways lies with the seller. As a restaurant, at what price I want to sell in my restaurant or outside world is totally my outlook. To answer your question, Faisal, I think this is not something which anybody can enforce upon you. Your pricing decision is yours. At what price you want to sell, because the business models of each platform is different. What you spend on ONDC versus a Swiggy or a Zomato or any other platform is totally different. So I don't see that as any challenge. There is nothing called price parity that can be enforced. It's against the basic competition laws.
But I'm not sure if that's what is being asked here. And
I
I
think
think
that's the
people need to
question.
understand. I think people need to understand the construct. In the current e-commerce situation, where a seller will have a completely independent presence on each of these, therefore, in theory, they can present a different pricing for the same item. But here, that facility itself doesn't exist. Right? You're registered as a single catalog. All the buyer applications are pulling from the same place. So there is no multiple instances on multiple platforms as a situation,
No, Shirish, I
and
think the
therefore the
question was more to do with the other aggregators, because the price parity is a problem with them. See, there
okay,
is
now I
that.
understood. I understood. Okay,
So
so
that's
people
why
who
I
are
said,
on
let me answer
aggregators,
that.
yeah, okay. Thanks for that correction. Yes.
Yeah.
So if that's a constraint, yeah, they can't be
No, that's not a
restricted.
constraint. Faisal, you can
Yeah,
be rest assured. That's
yeah.
not a constraint.
But if I may just come in, even on our current ONDC platform, and if you see how pricing is listed out, there are saws around it. The offers construct is completely now with the seller, right? What is the offer you're providing to your customer? So there are various ways around that. While you may have an item price which is listed at a parity, but in case you want to plow back some of the additional margin in the form of an offer, I don't think anyone can really stop you from applying that back. And I think that's something which is completely up to each of the seller to decide what is that they want to do on the network.
And
No,
remember,
Manish, you're absolutely right.
we
But I
barely
think
begun.
fundamentally, there is nobody can dictate my pricing strategy as a restaurant. Is the question. There's a point I'm trying
Yeah.
to make. My
Absolutely.
pricing, my product. Simple.
Yeah.
So apart from this controversial topic, I'll go into a simple question. Sankar Kasirajan asks, if a seller app charges 5% and B seller app charges 10%, and I'm enrolled on both, how will the network choose the seller app? Will I be charged 5% or 10%?
Network
I
will
think
not
it's a
choose.
yeah.
No intermediary or the network will choose. The buyer will choose. So the buyer will be looking for something. Now you happen to have two instances, okay? So be it. Now, when the buyer sends the request, let's say the buyer is looking for pepperoni pizza, and that's what gets broadcast. So that's the item that the buyer is looking for, a medium-sized pepperoni pizza. The buyer application through which the buyer is searching also has a commercial term expectation. Let's say they want to charge 5% as their commission. These two components get broadcast as a search packet to the entire network. All seller applications that have a pepperoni pizza and that accept 5% as a payment they're willing to pay to the buyer will respond saying, I have the item, here is what it looks like, here is the description, etc., etc., and they will pass it on. The buyer will get all these options that fit that criteria, and the buyer will choose. The buyer does not see what the commission structure is, so the buyer just simply chooses on the basis of what they see.
Just further adding to what Sirish said, I think what the seller was, what was also I think the other part of this question was that in case there are two instances of the same seller,
Yeah.
how will that get addressed? So the buyer, whichever selection the buyer makes, so you'll have three instances which will be through one could be through seller app A, one could be seller app B, one could be seller app C. So whichever instance the buyer chooses and makes the selection, that becomes the instance which will then connect you to the relevant seller app. So that seller app instance will be the one which will determine what price the buyer pays and what commission the seller pays.
Uh, Thanks. Marichi, I think you can take the next question. Pratik Langar Khande asks, can anybody explain the flow chart with respect to the restaurant partner? The way Marichi sir explained the customer order flow chart. What happens to the order with respect to the restaurant partner?
Um, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not fully understood the question. He wants to understand how the flow works,
So
how the
basically,
order flow works.
Yeah, if I'm a restaurant partner, how will I get the order on my POS? I guess he's talking of that level.
Okay, okay. So essentially there are two ways a restaurant partner would be integrated on the network, right? Either you are directly integrated onto the network, and please understand your POS is at your back end, right? You have integrated your seller marketplace. You'll have to have a seller app in which you will receive your orders, etc., right? So that is where the order falls to you. Your backend integration remains the same. Your integration is of your seller application onto the network, right? So if you are a directly integrated seller, you will receive that order on your seller application, which will relay it to your POS, and that's how you will get it on your POS. You will accept it on your POS. It will get relayed through your seller application. In case of an aggregating app, again, the same principle would work. The aggregating app would kind of have a backend technical tie-up with the relevant POS companies which you have, and then they would be able to enable those sellers. So so that enablement is done by the seller aggregating app. So, for example, we have Urban Piper integrations which have happened. We have Pet Puja integrations which have happened through some of our network partners. So now for the seller, in case a seller wants to go live on the network and they are using any of these POS or hubs, any network partner who has done their backend integration with them, they can enable those sellers onto the network. For the seller, it's a simple onboarding with the network partner, and the network partner will enable them onto the network because they have a backend tech integration with the POS company. I hope that kind of answered the question.
I
Yeah, I
think
think that
Pranav,
was.
you
Pranav, there was a question.
elaborated.
Pranav, there was a question earlier on. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was going to. Is somebody having a follow up to what Marichi just said?
No,
Oh,
I
no.
just thought,
Yeah,
Pranav, for example, you can throw an example saying that, for example, if a restaurant is through a seller app Magic Pin. So if anybody is buying on Magic Pin, say if I'm a buyer going and buying from that restaurant on Magic Pin, like the way any other Magic Pin order falls on your POS, this is how will also this order will also fall on your POS. And if you have, say, your own say app which you have registered, trying to go directly register with ONDC, whenever there is a buyer purchases from your own app as your own app, the way your own app orders are integrated with your POS, the way they fall on your POS, that's how they will fall. So the falling of the order is the same like any other order that we are doing. Only the visibility of the order gets changed. Instead of, say, aggregator B, they are on a particular network, and they are buying you from any particular designated seller.
Got it. Thank you. There's one question about loyalty programs, actually two questions. Dhruva Teja asks,
Pranav,
can the
before you
buyer...
ask the next question, Pranav,
Yes,
there was a question on database being shared with seller that came through, which we didn't get to
yes,
answer. Let
yes,
me just cover that.
yes.
So first of all, no database is getting shared with seller. Okay, when a buyer confirms an order on a particular seller or a food order confirms it on a restaurant, the restaurant has to make an invoice and has to dispatch the product. So the buyer's information gets sent only to the chosen seller, nobody else. The other sellers on the network who responded to the original search will not even know whether that order actually happened or didn't happen. Okay, so it's not a database getting shared, not at all. Only people who are part of the transaction get legitimate access to that one data point, and that's it. There is no database being shared. Yeah, go ahead, Pranav, to the next one.
Thanks. Dhruva Teja asks, can the buyer apps innovate and create loyalty programs and ratings and reviewing products, not just the sellers? And the second question by Anirudh Chala is, how do offers and loyalty programs work on the ONDC platform?
Okay. ONDC is not a platform and loyalty does not work on ONDC. Now, what you have is a network of several buyer applications and several seller applications. Okay. Now, try and look beyond the existing. So, yes, you can do what you do today. Okay. So, let's say I'm a customer of Shopper Stop and I get First Citizen points. Right? So, yes, if Shopper Stop comes as a seller, the same mechanism can occur. But you have an opportunity for much more than that because you have a single network which is facilitating all the transactions. So think about loyalty opportunities beyond that. Now you would obviously with anything else there is something called a tie-up, right? So look at what happens. Let's say with Star Alliance, you have a whole bunch of airlines that are part of an alliance. You can earn the points on any of the airlines in the alliance, alliance, and you can burn them on any other airline in the alliance, right? So now an alliance has got formed. So when a network has come together like this, there is an opportunity for literally using your imagination to figure out what kind of loyalty program you want to run. You might, for example, take all products of one kind and create a single loyalty program. Or you might take different kinds of sellers of different categories of products in one market, and you can create that as a loyalty program. So loyalty will work on the basis of somebody providing a service that is connected with the buyer and seller applications, which they will have to then tie up accordingly. Now, even the tie-up can one day be automated, so you don't require direct conversation and contact. It might be just simple self sign up. Oh, that's a good program. There are the things that I give: my KYC, my GSTN, etc., my catalog, and my point calculation. That for every X rupees I'll pay Y. That's my input, and voila, I'm part of a network. So I think loyalty programs or anything that can potentially be multiple seller, multiple shopping platform is now very easy to do. And I think we'll see a lot of innovation in things like loyalty programs. So it will still work like it does, which is somebody constructs the idea, somebody figures out the participants and does it. It's just that because of the nature, the innovation that will happen in loyalty will be tremendous. It will not be the simplistic ones that we see in the physical world, because tying up in the physical world is a lot more tougher.
Super. I think there's a lot of questions coming in, but I'm just going to take two broad questions now. One is about taxation. So Incognito asks, what about the taxes? The responsibility of taxes is with the aggregator as per the government norms. And Vinod Kumar Agarwal asked, if for a seller, is GST registration compulsory for ONDC registration, or are they exempt?
So ONDC is not a lawmaker. The e-commerce rules dictate the laws. If you want to be in e-commerce, currently you require GST. Therefore, if you want to do e-commerce on ONDC, you require. So ONDC has no unique set of laws, the same laws that apply everywhere else. There is an expectation that there'll be a relaxation to that in the notification that is coming up in October, that within the same state, that requirement will not be there. So the government is also trying to create a level playing field between online commerce and offline commerce, where if offline somebody is not required to have GST and to sell goods to a customer, then online they should not be. Now, they may not be able to bridge that overnight completely, but they're looking to relax in portion. There are options to that, which is a lot of sellers are therefore joining aggregators, and it's the aggregator who has a GST and ID. That's taking place at the private sector. That's also taking place via the government. So state governments, for example, have programs that promote local artisans and handicraft. So UP government, for example, has a vehicle called UP HDMC. So UP HDMC is the responder seller on the network in terms of accepting the order and responding back to the network. But the actual maker is some artisan in some town who gets related information, who will then through India Post send that to the customer. So people have found intermediaries to solve that. But yes, the law is the law. So currently law says that GST is required, therefore GST is required. In October, if as expected that relaxation happens, and it will happen across the board, it will happen on e-commerce platforms, it will happen on ONDC also. Taxation, I'm not the tax expert, but the final seller is and the customer is where the GST gets established at what has to be paid. The commissions will be a service that is charged to the seller in terms of from a taxation standpoint, and therefore a tax will apply on that commission part. So it's a little bit complicated. I'm not the expert. My suggestion is, if you really want to understand, either consult a CA. We do have a guidance document, but again, we provide that as a guidance document. So this is territory where devil is in the details, and we are not the persons to answer. But it's the same law that applies anywhere else. So there's nothing unique or different about laws to ONDC. We're in the same country that everywhere else is in.
Thank you. And just last question, I think it'll just sum up the entire discussion. A lot of people have asked me, is Pet Puja a registered seller application? And there's another question which asks, which aggregator apps have already been onboarded? So if you could just run through the F&B related network seller partners who are there, so they can.
Okay, I'll let Marichi answer the F&B one. But the short answer to all categories is on our website ondc.org. There's a tab network participants, and it will always be public information who's live, who's in advanced stages of integration, which means in the next few weeks we expect them to go live, and anybody else who has started work, whether they're 1 month away or 5 years away, it doesn't matter. So our information will be completely public. Within that F&B, I'll leave it to Marji to
So what I'll do is further to what Sirish has said, just so that everyone knows how to navigate it, I'll actually show you where it is on our website. So if you go to ondc.org, you click on network participants, you see network participants. You can actually go down, choose which are the ones live, which are in advanced stages, which are integrating. You can choose what role you are looking at. You can choose which category you are looking at. The moment you do that, you are able to access all the seller network partners who are there on the network. You will be able to find which are the categories they deal with, which are the cities they are currently covering, as well as contact details for the relevant person to connect to initiate your integration. So that's as far as that goes. Paid Puja is not a direct network partner. What Paid Puja is doing is it is kind of enabling our existing network partners to do a backend integration with them, and then enabling their merchants to flow through those network partners. So Paid Puja is not a direct network partner, but they are enabling them merchants to get onto ONDC.
Awesome. Thank you, Marichi.
There-
Thank you, Shirish.
I
We've got
have one small
yeah.
one small point,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pranav.
Go ahead, Murli.
So Marichi and Shiriji, the fundamental conversation in the fraternity is, it's the ONDC was bought into the entire limelight, saying that the commissions, blasting on the entire commissions bit of it. How on an average today an aggregator makes 20 to 25% commission, but here the commissions are between 2 to 5. And then while we were talking to multiple partners, we were seeing that there are a lot of conversations around commissions coming up, and a lot of differences in terms of commissions. Any pointer from your end, what you guys have envisioned the commission structure for a restaurant is?
So we have not, and we expect market forces to determine that. We are a very small network right now, although we are very excited about the rate at which we are growing and how much we've been able to achieve so far. But we're still we're still tiny, and so as we grow rapidly, I think the commission structure will evolve. I think people will see that the incremental effort of supporting incremental transactions is not much, and so the multiplicity of participants and that growing scale will drive from a competitive standpoint to a very, very efficient structure. So we don't have a point of view as to it will be X percent in this category and Y percent in that category. But we do believe that as we expand, and we've seen that in other territories, right? So we've seen that, for example, what has happened in the capital market and what those rates have come down to, what they used to be in the dematerialization era and what it became in terms of democratization of access, in terms of who can be a broker and therefore what the fees will be. So with broadening and opening a network that goes to population scale, commissions only come down.
Thank you.
And
for
people
that.
still make money. So I don't want any of the potential network participants here to feel scared. Oh my God, commissions are even lower than current aggregators who are also struggling. So the cost structure itself is different. And the reason why we feel that it will happen also is because it's sustainable. We are a network which is simply connecting people who have restaurants or sellers with people who have shoppers or people who are ordering. So there's no acquisition cost anymore. Suddenly you've connected everyone to everyone. You've taken that out of the system. You've taken commissions significantly down. So once you start doing that, automatically it becomes more efficient for people to operate with than than the current alternative. So it will be a leaner, more efficient structure than the current options.
Thank you, Shirish. Thank you. Anuragji, one last word from you, and then we take it to Sagar for closing remarks.
Thank you, Pranav. See, to all the fraternity partners out here, all the restaurateurs out here, please understand what people buy is our product. And any platform, for it to succeed, it's important that more and more of us are available there. Today, if the partners were not there, the strength of Swiggy and Zomato, for example, is drawn from the fact that we are all there. Otherwise, people are not consuming technology, they're consuming a product. Similarly, and for this very reason, I would urge every restaurateur to explore the possibility of getting onto the ONDC network, not as an alternative necessarily to Swiggy and Zomato, but as an alternate source of doing food delivery business. It is going to be very, very important in the long run. And I would urge everyone to seriously consider joining the network and spread the word around ONDC. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuragji. We have Sagar with us, who's the current Vice President of NRI and co-founder of Wow Momos. And Sagar, can you give your closing remarks?
Sure. Thanks, Pranav. Well, Anuragji, completely concur with you. I think, like Shirishji said, ONDC is a new network. It's very tiny at the moment, but to be very honest, it's providing large hopes to the fraternity, because I think it's going to be a game changer. So I think thanks to Shirishji, thanks to Maritji for taking out time and making this entire session so insightful. Thanks to the other panelists. Well, I think it's quite clear that ONDC does provide is a path to profitability for the fraternity and does provide that level playing field. I think most importantly, let's keep the P&L side aside. Most importantly, with the aggregators, we sell our products. We don't get to know our customers. In this case, we get to know our customers. So there is no consumer masking. And I think that's a big step forward. I think very insightful session. And thanks to the audience for asking some amazing questions. I think the FNQ was more and more insightful. I think as we progress and as the platform grows, as more and more restaurateurs come into the ONDC network, I think this is going to be a larger force, and in a way it makes us Atmanirbhar. It is something which is, maybe it's not just an open network, it's an open platform for restaurants to come out there and actually create that level playing field. So thank you so much for Shirishji, Marishji, for taking out time and, coming and enlightening us and, giving us those insights. And I'm sure this is going to be helpful. And this is just the beginning of our knowledge sessions when it comes to, making your delivery business more profitable, enabling the fraternity to, go out there and actually make money out of delivery. Because at the moment, we are at the mercy of aggregators. And somewhere this mercy is about to end. So I think it's a good start. A job well begun is half done. I believe you jump from 1,000 orders a day to 10,000 orders a day very soon. And I'm sure this 10,000 orders a day will go to lakhs and lakhs. So wishing all of us the very best. Thank you so much for taking our time. And we will come back to you with a lot more knowledge and information, maybe in the coming months, as we all get into this platform and learn more and more and come there to share knowledge. So thank you so much for attending this session. And thanks to all the panelists for taking out their time. Till when we meet again, thank you. Shabba khair, goodbye, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sagar. Thank you, Shirish. Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, everyone.